Hey, welcome to Wrestling and Everything, Coast to Coast, with your hosts, Buddy Sotelo, Esquire, and Mike Leno. And one of the few times we don't have our guests. Both of my guests flaked out on me. I had a couple already scheduled. I'm going to see if I can maybe patch in my old pal Casey Wood if he's available.
Because I photographed probably all of his matches at APW. I was going to ask you, but before, well, let me ask you my question. And I have just two things I want to bring up quickly, and hopefully we'll have Kid Chrome on. But you had booked our brothers from APW, Apollo Khan and Kid Chrome. Did either or both of them ever, I was trying to figure out just from memory if they worked Iron too, or was it strictly
Yes,
APW?
now, not just that, Apollo Khan worked with me. Casey went up to the Pacific Northwest. I think he was originally from there, and he moved back to Oregon. But Apollo Khan stayed in the Bay Area. I think he might now be living in L.A., but he was living in the Bay Area, and I managed him both in Pro Wrestling Iron and in California Championship Wrestling with JJ, my friend JJ. And I managed against him briefly in PWI, but I think sort of in PWI, he, as PWI sort of petered out, he went and did some other things. I think he was wrestling for Ice Boxes, Fed, that short-lived Fed that.
Well, that's because I got stiffed on the first show. I came up with that first name for it, Oaktown Championship Wrestling. That was my baby. Icebox, I introduced him to Roland. And he went to, training. He wanted to go. He was a legit roller derby guy, the second incarnation of the Bay Bombers, not the real true classic Jerry Seltzer stuff that ended in December '73. But he was a skater of note. He promoted. But that first show, Tony Fury and I got screwed on the money. And but he learned, he improved, and he was putting on. And he still does. He's got lots of big names on his shows now. I forgot. It's called Stars of Wrestling, something like that. And he brings in Carlito Colon a lot, and Godfather, and Boogeyman, and some others. He had Bobby Lashley when Lashley was with TNA on all the shows. He was a regular. And we would sit and bullshit in the locker room and stuff. So two quick things I want to do. And we are going to try to get Mike Rogers on in the month of May. I want to talk and just promote his book, Excitement in the Air. This is volume 3, The Voices of Northwest Wrestling. We're talking to Don Owen Promotions. Fantastic book. Just go to Amazon or Google it. He's done a total of 3 of these, The Voices of Northwest Wrestling. He actually is planning on the 4th. He really didn't know if he was going to do that. But here's a page, may not even be able to see it, of Roy Shire's 1970.
No, it's blanked out because of the green screen effect.
78 Battle Royal, and there's a promo online, and he also did, so Mike Rogers, that's Rodgers. He's done 3 Excitement in the Airs, 3 different volumes, all different interviews with folks like Ivan Koloff, Rick Martel, Mad Dog Vachon, a Bay Area legend, Moondog Eddie Moretti, Dutch Savage, Don Leo Jonathan Luthez.
Yeah, I worked a lot of shows with Ed Moretti. I would mostly talk to him about.
He came in, he was in the Battle Royal the second night of the very first King of the Indies. The Battle Royal had, Frankie Kazarian was in that Battle Royal. A lot of Bay Area guys.
I would say this. No man has been better at running a slow down match than Ed Moretti that I ever saw in my life.
An old school pro. Grew up rolling as a fan. I was shooting ringside when I'd come up, and Meltzer would be there taking notes, and Eddie Moretti and Roland would usually be standing. They weren't in their seats. They'd be standing like in the back. So they're watching wrestling, but at the same time, they're trying to pick up girls. And we're talking 70s, like 73, 4, 5, 6, 7. And those were the days. Dorothy Hopkins, who made the ring robes for Pat and Ray and some other talents like Dean Ho. And I think she made at least one for Don Morocco and Ron Starr. But Roy Shire let her film. She's sitting always in the front row, and she had her little 8mm camera, and she was filming. And I have copies of all that stuff. I know Joe S. put them online, but you really shouldn't have, because that wasn't his footage to put up. But whatever, it's on.
Get to a point though, if you don't digitize it and get it online now, you're never going to be able to get it because the stuff is deteriorating and falling apart. The physical films.
I digitized all the LaBelle and Shire stuff that
right.
That I.
But the other stuff, these home movies that a lot of people have.
You got to digitize them and protect them. Get them off of the Betamax.
Yeah, celluloid.
I wanted to say, Russ, because it's wrestling and legal, and I'd interviewed twice. Great comedian we lost. We lost all those wrestling folks, just a ton. We lost a great photographer, not just Bob Mulrenan, who I talked about on this show, but Brian Bucantis, who I think primarily was photographing 70s Dick the Bruiser in Detroit when the Bruisers WWA territory was taking on Sheik's NWA backed. And I think Bruiser at Olympia Stadium in Detroit had the cards on Friday nights, and the next night the Sheik had absolutely loaded cards. It was a real wrestling war. But Richard Belzer talking about the Hogan thing, and I mentioned to you, and you said that sounds crazy. He claimed he got a $5 million judgment against Hogan. He was only able to collect somewhere about $400,000 to $450,000. Which
that part I kind of believe.
Yeah, that's what he got. That's what he got. The judgment was X, but he got, whatever, 1/10 of X.
That's the way it usually works in the legal world, by the way.
Yeah, you get
everyone hears, $1 million judgment, but they often find out that they, collect $100,000 to $200,000 from that.
The funny thing was he used it to pay to get out of the U.S. A lot of these people, and Howard Stern was talking about it, a lot of these people say, oh, when Trump got elected, I'm going to move to Canada. I'm going to move outside the U.S. I can't take it. Well, when Bush Jr. got elected, Belzer put his money where his mouth is. He used that Hogan money he got from the settlement, bought the place, or put that down the house in I forget, it wasn't Paris, but he was in France, and that's where he passed away. Sadly, not in his native New York. But if you watch, my buddies and I, Richard Dawson's two kids, and I thought we discovered Richard Belzer. He was in this underground movie, Groove Tube, which you said you've seen.
Yeah, oh yeah. It was the successor to Kentucky Fried Movie.
It might have come out, I think it might have come out before Kentucky Fried Movie.
Was it before Kentucky Fried Movie?
Because it was before the Gong Show movie. Those three were like guilty pleasures. But the weird thing is it came out in like late 73, early 74, well before Saturday Night Live. But Chevy Chase that's where, he was from National Lampoon. He did the news anchoring thing. And he did the thing where he's like talking dirty to his girlfriend, thinking he's not yet on camera, news desk. And then he has to put the phone down when he realizes the camera's hot. He's got a hot camera on him. And he goes right into, blah, blah, blah. And it was pretty amazing. Those two guys came from the Lampoon, the Harvard Lampoon. And there was, on cable now, there's some kind of documentary on the National Lampoon magazine and the radio show, which a lot of people don't know about. All they know is some of these movies that had National Lampoon in front of it, like, the Vacation, the Chevy Chase Vacation movies. And there was a couple other National Lampoons, Van Wilder.
Buck Henry came from that National Lampoon.
Was he great as the dirty old man on the SNL, like the first and second season? It was just funny.
I met Buck Henry at a party once. I met him and Elliot Gould at Michael Dukakis's pre-election campaign. I worked on the Dukakis motorcade, and I drove Bruce Morton around Los Angeles, and it was the only time in my life that Beverly Hills Boulevard and the 405 was completely stopped, and I was able to drive on it with no other cars other than me and the motorcade. It was a pretty unique experience, watching all these big fat cats in their, Mercedes and Rolls Royces having to sit there while I got to drive my car.
That's kind of like the one WrestleMania, the 2015 one, which Lanny Poffo had Pampero Firpo's daughter, Mary, who I brought on the show.
Yeah, we had on the show, yes.
And he listed us as friends and family. He wanted me to take pictures of him accepting the award at the Hall of Fame for Randy, but he got us this friends and family thing. So we had press for everything. And for Hall of Fame on that Saturday night. Then at Levi Stadium, Sunday WrestleMania, she and I rode in the very fancy. I wouldn't even call them buses because they were first class that transported the talent. And they stopped the traffic on whatever the freeway was to get to Levi Stadium from, for example, from the where were we? We're at it was either it was the Westin in San Jose, the fanciest hotel there, and just got on the freeway briefly, but traffic was stopped. So it was like your experience, traffic stopped while we go in there. And then you have a massive security check to get your 3 different armbands. So you would be allowed in Levi and the night before at the Shark Tank for the Hall of Fame at San Jose thing. So, until hopefully Kid Chrome's.
I think we are now being joined. There we go. After all the technical difficulties.
I apologize. I had to reset my password like 18 times. My wife in here helping me out.
Okay. It's good to see you, brother. I'm guessing I have shot and photographed as Roland's photographer from day one, from when Modest and the rest of them, Frank Murdoch, got out of the school. I probably shot every one of your matches.
I remember you very well.
So yes, let me introduce. Better late than never. My old friend, all the way from Portland, Oregon. Casey Wood, better known if you were a wrestling mark in the 2000s here in Northern California and a little bit in Southern California, Kid Chrome. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I apologize. I'm so sorry it took so long. I don't know what I had my all set up and it was working just fine, and it said
we're glad to get you on. Let me ask, what is behind you? Is it a lot of wrestling or other kinds of awards and trophies?
Oh, it's mostly just rock and roll stuff.
Tell us what's on there, because I've been. There's a Kiss book. Love music. So there's a drum kit, major drum kit set, right?
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. Just bands I went on tour with and stuff, and I feel so bad I'm so late.
That's okay. That's why we want to get right into it. Wait, what do you do musically though? Are you a sessions player, or do you have your own band?
Right now, I'm happily doing nothing. Retired with my hot wife.
What were you doing in music?
Just tons of different bands. Some session stuff, but nothing like to really brag about, honestly.
But what genre of music though? Is it you more?
Pretty much straightforward rock and roll. Not heavy metal. Well, sometimes I guess, but just rock and roll.
I just love it. I love the fact that Kiss, they do have the ultimate. Even if you don't like, music of any kind, if you go there, you're going to be sold on them, because they open with Detroit Rock City. They end with a killer song. So they do their set. Yeah. It's just like wrestling. You want to open with a hot match. You want to leave them with something hot.
Yeah, you want to tell a story.
Yeah. It's always. I've only seen them a couple of times. Never photographed them. I just wanted to enjoy their concerts. And
I see what you're saying. No, it's like bring the crowd up, bring them down, bring them back up, bring them down.
It's like that roller.
In with the big bang, yeah.
Because a lot of the bands I used to have to cover, though, photographically, prog, meaning Pink Floyd to Yes, cool. And King Crimson and stuff. I could see people. Music, but I could see people falling asleep. It wasn't like Kiss or the Stones, where it's like, well, that's great then. Let me throw back to Russ.
Yeah. So Casey, tell us how you got started in pro wrestling.
Oh, geez. Well, I was looking for a wrestling school, obviously. Being a fan growing up the first thing I remember was watching wrestling. Portland wrestling.
Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in the Bay Area? Obviously, sure.
No, Portland.
Oh, really, Portland. So did you grow up? You must have grown up on Don Owens wrestling. That's what I'm talking about with Mike Rogers' book. Mike Rogers is the ultimate historian. I
have the book.
Yeah, but there's three Excitement in the Airs. If you know Mike.
I got one of them.
And I've known Mike forever. He was with me when I was brought in by the Hart family to photograph Stu Hart's Calgary 1995 birthday party, his 80th birthday party, and the 45th anniversary of Stampede Wrestling. That huge show with all of the alumni back. And
Here's the championship belt from Portland.
which belt is that?
The one that debuted in '85. Bobby Jaggers had.
Oh, wow. So what championship though is that? That's the original, right?
Well, it's made from the original.
Or it's okay, it's a replica. But what's the
made by Dave Milliken though? There's only three in the world.
Yeah, wow, you got a Dave Milliken belt. Those are the primo ones.
Well, that's I was gonna get you sort of short-circuited it, but I did want to mention that you have a really impressive collection of belts, and we've never had a belt collector on our show before. So you might want to after you tell us how you got involved in pro wrestling, then maybe you can tell us about your belt collection and how you got into that and what your prize belts is. I love that red Pacific Northwest belt. I told you already online. I got
a black one too. But to answer your question though, it was Portland I grew up on. I didn't know about any other territories at the time. I was like 4 years old. I didn't know what WWF was. I didn't know what it was Portland.
Well, that was a hell of, and everybody came in there when Roddy Piper was sent in from Houston by Red Bastien to L.A. and then went to San Francisco, and ended up in Portland, and that's when that territory blew up. You still had the older legends, the Dutch Savage, the Bull Ramoses, Stan Stasiak, but then you had all these guys, Rick Martel, Kurt Hennig, Lanny Poffo even came into Portland.
The first person I remember watching that I remember as a tiny little kid was Dynamite Kid.
Right.
Nice. And Buddy Rose was a big deal.
Nelson Royal.
He was part of Buddy Rose's army before Rip Oliver's clan, yeah.
Wow.
And big Portland was
Ed Wiskowski, Buddy Rose. And you remember, or you may not know, that Roy Shire, when he lost TV entirely, for at least 2.5 years, he was using Don Owens Portland television with localized interviews that they would cut.
I read that one.
Yeah, and you'd have the guys like Piper and Rose and Wiskowski and Ken Ramey cut promos. And then
Jimmy Snuka.
Yes.
There were a lot of pro wrestling schools, though, in Oregon. Why did you come down to the Bay Area for a school?
Well, that was a thing. There was like 3 in Portland and 1 in Vancouver that I remember. And I visited them, and I don't know, they just, I don't want to cut anybody down. They just didn't seem very professional. So I got back then, you'd send up, you get little flyers in the mail from back at wrestling magazines, wrestling schools. So I just, Hayward was a 10-hour drive from Portland. So I went over there to check it out, and I watched the training thing, and stuff, and they seemed like way more professional. And they beat the crap out of you. You have to pay your dues there.
Yeah, but it wasn't like Bud Sawyer in Sacramento where he'd stretch you, take your money, and say, "Sorry, kid, you didn't make it." At least you.
Yeah, it wasn't like that.
But so you had, did you have Robert Thompson and Mike Modest, or who were your trainers? Was it Modest?
Modest was my first school. Thompson was there, but he was done training at that time. But we wrestled together many matches, tagged together. Actually, I just put some on YouTube, or on my Facebook, of Thompson and I wrestling together. One of my favorite tag team matches of all time was, it was called On the Fly. It was Thompson and I against Super Destroyer and Boom Boom. You were there, buddy.
Yes.
Remember that
Oh,
match?
yes. No, that was a fantastic match.
That's on YouTube.
That was over at Cloverdale, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yes. And the
I'm sorry if I'm.
Well, no, that one came. We had the Battle Royale first, right?
Yes, that was the same show. No, different show.
Yeah, it was. There's the Battle Royale first, and the idea was all the managers would come out, and they would all introduce their wrestlers. They'd all leave, but no one told me that, so I stayed, and that's when you and Mark got into it.
Yeah,
on the outside.
Look at the crowd and stuff.
Yes,
we got heat for that actually.
totally. That was like the match before the match.
We were stealing the show. Nobody was watching the Battle Royal. I was hitting Mark with chairs. I have it on video actually.
Yeah, and you almost hit me with one, and I was pretty damn scared. I didn't know what to do. It was like the third or fourth show that I'd managed at, and
It was all on the fly too. But we're like, just screw it. Let's go for it. Because they were set up an angle with us anyway, so let's just start it right now.
Roland was going to be furious at me for staying out there when all the other managers left, but then because that spot got over so well, he was like, I was going to kick your ass, and now because the fans loved it. Cloverdale was hot. That particular show we did was like 500 people. We had that was one of the biggest and most exciting shows that I'd done. But our thing was a huge buildup, and then you had the Robert Thompson and you versus Massaro and Super Destroyer.
It was Boom Boom and Super Destroyer.
Oh, Boom Boom, yeah, that's right, and Super Destroyer with Shane Dynasty as the dual managers, me and Shane as two managers on the outside, plus Boom Boom and Mark inside the ring versus you and Robert Thompson, and that was
over the top rope, and I landed on you and Mark.
That was awesome. That was really awesome, and we got the whole shit chant.
I remember
why was the
I was wondering if you're okay or not.
Why was Mark under the hood at all? Good-looking guy, had all this talent. What was the purpose of the Super Destroyer?
Oh man, you really need to watch the Mark Smith documentary. I keep telling you to watch it, and you keep not watching, and you're in it, so you should actually watch it to see where you're.
You haven't seen it?
He hasn't seen it yet. Guilty.
I was kind of pissed that they didn't ask for pictures. I've got these beautiful pictures of Mark, not just in AP Dub, but some Ring of Honor stuff, but obviously all of his AP Dub stuff. And
they had a lot already to work with, but I thought it was my idea to put a mask on him because I wanted to make a heel turn for him, and I wanted him to be able to start doing things physically without having to get on the mic. And there's nothing better than putting that, it's just like the Assassins in Portland, or the Grappler when Portland had the Grappler,
Len Denton helped me
he was booking. Len Denton was a genius booker in Portland for Don.
He was one that helped me get involved in the business. Before I went to APW, I lived right down the road from him, from Piper's Pit Stop. They had a business down the road. And I told him I was going to APW to train, and he goes, "Who's training you?" Len's asked me. I go, "Mike Modest," and he goes, "Oh, you're in good hands."
Oh, nice.
I go, "Yeah, I'm going all the way down to Hayward," and he's like, he was happy for me to go there. He goes, "That's a good school."
What was Len like?
Well, at that time or now?
No, at the time.
Now he's pretty mellow.
Yeah, he's pretty. Yeah, compared to back. Yeah, no, he awesome. I get nothing but respect for him. When I told him, I was serious, he was going to train me in his backyard.
Wow.
That was the official deal. Then I started shopping around, and that's where I found Hayward. And that was pre-internet, kind of, because internet was there, but it was still, that was like 7, 8. When I was looking around, kind of thing.
Were you living at AP Dub, so you didn't have to make those 12-hour drives down from?
No, I moved to Hayward in an apartment complex.
Okay.
With my girlfriend.
Not Ray Stevens and Teresa Thies, who was the female wrestler who broke Ray in. They had an apartment complex where some of the wrestlers lived.
No, we lived off of Fletcher Lane. Remember TNA, the girl wrestler, not wrestler, but ballet girl.
Oh yeah.
That's I lived with her, both from Portland. So.
Do you ever keep in touch with her?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't talked to her since the days. Is she still live in Northern California?
No, she's back in Oregon. It was funny because I went to have a meeting to join the school and stuff, and they saw her, and she wasn't there for that. She was, they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" So she got a job before I did. And I'm like, "What? I haven't one bump yet, and you're already working the show."
The funny thing about Val Ace and APW is that Jim Cornette's wife, Kelly, was one of the very first valets, and her sister Brenda, I can't remember what her Kelly's name was. She was doing like an S&M bondage type of gimmick, and Brenda was just sort of this was before you guys even came there.
Is that Cherry Bomb that you're talking about?
No, Cherry Bomb came much later, and she never when she hurt her arm or something, that's when she quit the biz. She was remember she did the Fire Act.
Yeah, the fire thing and the
fire.
Yeah.
But so Cornette married Stacy Goff is who Corny's married to, but I think her sister Brenda, the two of them valeted. And then there was Gina, Carla Filbert was her real name, but Miss Gina was the brunette. And so there was the three of them. They were the earliest ones. And then Candice LeRae would come up, now this incredible world-class worker on WWE TV, on I guess the Raw program, but she was coming up with Billy Blade and Billy Blade's partner from Santa Barbara, when they would come up all the time for rolling shows, and they were doing like the Rock Act. But Candice LeRae was just their valet, not even taking bumps.
That name sounds familiar.
Candice LeRae's big, huge deal. She was on all of the pro wrestling Gorilla cards, or tons of the ones that I shot. But now she went to NXT for WWE, which is on Tuesday nights, and now she's on main roster for WWE. But back in the day, late 1990s, she was already coming up to our cards from Los Angeles and Santa Barbara. So that was quite a bit of history of women. Maybe not wrestling until the days of.
You mean like Sarah Del Rey?
Yeah, that's kind of when it started. Sarah Del Rey, Melissa Anderson, and then there was one other one that Roland was really pushing. She never went anywhere. They brought in the one from Japan, and they brought in the one from Mexico, who stayed. This was during the Deadridge years. But the one from Japan stayed for like
the Mexico chick. The Mexico girl, she got scared off pretty quick.
Yeah,
I remember.
She was the redheaded one. Roland was like putting her over everybody, and a lot of us
didn't work.
That, but there was women that came in and out of the promotion. And there's the one that ended up marrying Vinny, but she initially was valeting for Boyce II the Man.
Yeah, Veronica. Yes, Veronica Lay.
Yeah.
So Casey, tell me about some of your highlights as a wrestler. What do you think were some of your best matches?
Mark. It's funny because I love the stories with him in the ring, because that's when it really first started, and Vinny too, as a matter of fact. I love working with Mark because I finally started figuring out what psychology really was. The idea of, like, if you're in the front row, you're watching matches, and you see a 175-pound guy against this monster, you're thinking, okay, let's go get a beer. This guy's gonna get squashed. But he always we told a story where I had a chance. I would duck something, or I would tire him out, or go for his leg, do a go behind, trip him, make him confused, and so it got people interested. That's why I started learning really psychology. You could suck people in and make it a believable match. Like, this kid's got a chance, And I love the fact that all of our matches all told different stories. Always the result. I'm not going to win, but I always give the people.
Well, because I helped cheat quite a bit.
Maybe he might actually win this match,
Yeah, I helped cheat quite a bit to make sure that you didn't win.
Thanks for the kicks in the chest were great.
and the heart punch. When Mark would uncork the heart punch when the ref wasn't watching. That was always a great moment, of old schoolness,
Right. Name the Kid Chrome, name the guy from Portland or Buzzard Creek, Oregon, who was most famous for doing the heart punch, besides Ox Baker. Stan the Man Stasiak. Stan the Man Stasiak. That's
he's from Portland also? Okay.
Oh, the heart punch?
Yeah, he's a huge legend. There was Dutch Savage.
Oh, I know Stan. Yeah, I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Yeah, obviously tough Tony Bourne, whose son was Matt, who we sadly lost.
Stan did the heart punch, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And Moondog Lonnie Main, it was originally a babyface in Oregon, is just playing Lonnie Main in the 60s, teaming with Tony Bourne.
Yeah.
But what I did think it's interesting that you never had a title, as far as I remember. Did you ever get one when you were in APW?
Not APW. I did win one tag belt twice in Astoria, Oregon, but that's got nothing to do with APW. So.
Oh well, where else did you wrestle in Oregon?
PNPW, Pacific Northwest Professional Wrestling.
Who was running that one?
Well, his work name is CC Poison. Roger.
Yeah, I wouldn't know that,
It's
but
a small.
yeah, I know. That's a famous promotion. Were you at all close with Buddy Wayne, whose son now is the hottest star?
I never met him. I mean, I might have met him, but I can't remember like hanging out or whatever, you know.
Yeah, his kid has already signed developmental. He's not even of age. He's like 16 and a half, 17. Done 3 Japan tours. Everybody's talking about him. Wrestling all over in Europe and Mexico besides Japan.
I haven't really talked to anybody up here about that in a while. I did a couple of runs.
Darby Allin broke in the Oregon somewhere? That's why he's loyal to Darby Allin of AEW.
Darby Allin.
Yeah, Darby Allin's a huge star. If you're not watching AEW's...
I don't watch much anymore.
Oh, you really should. You should watch AEW.
I mean, I watch wrestling every day, but I watched 70s, 80s, 60s, NWA, WWF, AWA, Mid-South, Florida. I turn on TV on nowadays, I'm just like, done.
Yeah, well, the old stuff.
So psychology. I don't know.
70s Georgia Championship Wrestling,
Oh, I love Georgia.
75 on, you just can't beat it. It was.
Yeah, I know. Mid-South, yeah, Memphis even.
Terrific.
I'm old school. Can I tell you?
Where like Mid-South, how are you watching it? Do they have enough stuff on YouTube? I'm not even going there to see.
Yes, they do.
It's all up.
Well,
full show.
Remember the tape trading days too? Like in the.
I was part of it. Yeah, we all were.
Yeah, I bought a ton of videos back in those days.
It was so old school, though. In the early 70s, we'd pull out the cassette recorders. There were no VHSs really until the beta units in 75. But we would tape from like 1970 on, just hold a cassette recorder so you tape the audio.
Right, record out the TV itself.
Yeah, that's how I'd record all the LA and some other, and people would tape trade. We'd tape trade these cassettes like 1971, 72. I'd get in all the Tri-WF stuff, and you could hear what was going on everywhere. The Crusher, Dick the Bruiser, all of that good stuff.
I still have, I don't know, probably at least 300-400 tapes of old school stuff from the tape trading days. Still have them in boxes.
All VHS, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank God you do, because you have some of the original Buddy Sotelo stuff that you've been posting up there.
Well, that's a different story there.
Yeah, no, it's been great to check back on some of those matches. I haven't seen them in like nearly 30 years, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I just found a few more too. Like I started posting them. I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't do that. I'm going to mark out for myself, But then again, people are involved. You might want to see this stuff,
It's history now. I mean, and like Mark, to be able to see Mark again, back in the ring and in his glory, and what was great about having you there is that you and Mark, I love that clash of styles.
We work together so well. I don't want to again mark out for myself, but we never had a bad match.
They were great. I often felt like I was lucky that I was able to have the front row seat that I got, except when you would jump out on me. But I always felt I was very lucky to be able to watch your guys' matches. And you and Vinny had some great matches together.
Vinny's my second best. They're tied, both of them are tied. Again, the psychology, the different style of bodies and how do you sell it, and what do you do, and how do you outsmart someone, how do you heel baby, there's a lot to it if you get done the right way. that makes any sense. It does to me, but you know, I was
So-
just showing my wife the other day a few matches that Mark and I had, and one came up that really cracked me up. There was one night he goes, "So, what should we do tonight that's different?" I go, "I have an idea. Remember Corey?
Yes.
He was running the spotlight, right? So you and Mark come out with the dark, lights, and no music because it's old school. Remember that, right?
Right. And when
So
you have a cape on.
So my music hits. I go, I'm gonna go around the ring, do all the, high five everybody and stuff like this. And I remember telling Mark before the match, I go, what if I just get on the top rope and just have the spotlight follow me and just come up to you right in the face and just start off like that and just start attacking you because we're still in the storyline,
Absolutely.
And he goes, I go right in the face. He goes, I like that idea. That's exactly what I did. So we watch the match. I go right on. I'm like, baby face, blah, blah, blah. And then top rope, the spotlight's perfect. I told Corey, I go, watch me come down. And Mark just sells it. Boom, like, what the F, And then I'm just attacking him. And he throws me off. And then, every match was a different story, which I thought was so cool.
You played into that so well, and you had so much intensity. That's what I think people remember so much about you.
And you couldn't hurt him.
Yeah. Well, you could if you took it too far, but you and Mark and Vinny had great balances. You really did. So I know you teamed up with Robert Thompson. Did you ever tag team with anyone else while you were there in APW?
I Jordy Franz, who was always brilliant.
It was playing Jardy's brother. There was another Franz.
Yeah, Miyake.
Yeah.
Nate Miyake.
The France brothers, they call them.
Yes, and last time I heard of Nate Miyake, he was like a total bodybuilder or something. He's like gone like the other direction.
No idea. I teamed with Donovan for a long time too. We did Halloween,
that's right also.
Halloween against the Westside Players at the main event.
Which Westside Players? Not the originals of Kwame Kamosi and Jay Smooth, but
2000.
No.
Westside Players 2000.
Which was what? It was Boyce LeGrand, and who was the other one?
Robert.
Who?
Robert Thompson.
Oh, Robert. Okay, managed by Icebox.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. The whole song and the whole thing, and they could not be beat. That was the whole thing.
Were you there? Apparently, though, and I'm fine with Icebox now. He's a nice guy. He's got a good heart. Tries to do.
I love Icebox. He was a cool guy.
But he came to one of Robert's training sessions. I think Mayock the Magician was James Watkins, was it?
Yep.
Doing training, and he just blew up and quit after the first bump session, and that was enough. So I don't know why Roland would use him if he couldn't at least go through more than one class.
As a manager, he was good. Icebox was good as a manager, and he was jovial, and
he was famous for the roller derby thing in the 70s.
Right. Well, I mean, he nagged me. I was friends with him before ever taking him to an AP-Dub show. I took him to Gin War. He kept nagging me to take him. He wanted to get involved. And he loved it. I told him the Kirk White stuff is the shit than their fly-in talent, which is true. I mean, and, the absolute best, all of those Gym Wars. I miss that place to this day, that shitty little garage off of Winton, off the 880 freeway.
I know it
place because it's just so much different. The spot shows were fun, obviously great fun, but the every other week or every 3-week Gym Wars, the Halloween spectaculars, the Christmas show, a lot of good planning. It was good. I grew up with Roland. I miss the guy to this day for all his faults and stuff, which we put aside. I think we all do.
Yeah, well, he's a promoter, so
Yeah, but I mean, I knew him, so I knew when he was bullshitting you guys and full of shit, like the stuff about babysitting The Rock and all that stuff, which was complete bullshit.
Oh, I know.
because we were there then. Meltzer and I were there.
When I first met him, he goes, "Excuse me, I'm on the phone with Harley Race right now." You know, I'm sure you are. Well, I'm not going to bushwhacker Luke, which he actually was because he booked a show, but still, it was like, you don't need a name drop, dude. If you are, that's great.
That's how he was. He was like an overgrown Gene Okerlund with the name dropping.
So
But
Yeah.
he loved the business. He loved the business. Unlike
Way to put it.
Fight, who was only in it for money, Roland really loved the business, loved the history. That's why he gave a lot of those wrestlers, like Venice DeMarco was named after one of Roland's favorites, Paul DeMarco, or
We love the business for sure.
Yeah, Blackwell. Didn't he name our
Larry Blackwell, after
yeah.
Jerry.
So all of Roland's favorites from the
He's
70s managed to try naming some of his talent.
So when was your when did you finish wrestling? When did you decide you were done with it, and what was behind that decision?
Well, I broke my neck. So
Oh well, shit. When did that happen?
Oh, that's pretty
not
scary.
in a wheelchair kind of sense, but I went to a specialist in San Francisco, and the guy showed me the X-ray, and he goes, "You see that crack right there? If you land wrong again, you'll be doing this," meaning wheelchair thing. I was like, "Oh." So I went back to Hollywood to play drums for a long time, and then I was turned out great, but I came back to Oregon, and then I don't know, 10 years ago, the little promotion was up the road. I went and watched them and stuff, and then the promoter knew who I was, and he goes, "Do you want to work some shows?" And I thought, yeah, that sounds cool. And like my friends were going, "Dude, you might not take a wrong bump," kind of thing. But I did I don't know, a couple of years, which means like maybe 5-6 shows a year. It's not a couple of years if you think about it. And then my neck hurts. So I've been actually in a ring for probably 10 years. That maybe 12, 13. I don't know for sure, but it hurts.
Do you need surgery on your neck? Do you need surgery on it?
I was said it was a good idea, but I never did.
But you haven't had that done yet.
I'm okay.
Okay, good. No, I don't want you to have to go. I've had too many friends have to go under the knife, including our friend Shane Dynasty, who's having his finger amputated, unfortunately,
Yeah,
due
you
to
told me
skin
about that.
cancer. Yeah,
Yep.
he was just on the show a couple weeks ago. And by the way, I wanted to bring up the fact that he has got a GoFundMe site, and I will be putting it on the Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast web page, Facebook page, if people want to donate to him, because he's a tattoo artist, and he's going to be unable to use his hands to draw tattoos.
That sucks.
It's really just terrible that
Yeah, I didn't know that until you mentioned it to me earlier today through messaging, and I was like, "What's going on?" And that's terrible.
And then of course our friend Boom Boom Kamini, you knew him pretty well. He died.
Yeah.
He died a couple of years ago because of.
I used to see him. I would ride the what is it, Russ? The 35 or 36 Gary bus from.
I never take the bus. I'm from Marin. We're
All right,
too
but
rich for
in
buses.
San Francisco, when I go to Japantown, I'd often ride the bus with Boom Boom, or he'd get on after me at
Not the BART train.
And I'd see Boom Boom all the time. He'd come up and do the thing he did to you guys. He'd do the titty twister.
Oh yeah, jeez.
I remember he used to do that to you guys in the ring at various points.
Yeah.
The different generations of AP Dub
To my
boys.
right here, we made the cover of Sunday Alameda paper. I can see it right here.
Time Star, hold it up. Can you get it?
Well, I can, if you want to see it, I guess I can move the camera around. But
Is it the our paper? Because I lived in Alameda. The Time Star.
hang on, I'll just do this if I can.
Photo. I want to make sure I paid for it.
Oh,
I
that's
don't
really
see it.
cool.
Get kiss
A
stuff
lot
in
of
the way.
focus.
Yeah, it's a little out of
Yeah,
focus.
I know.
He's going to be able to get it. It's
He had
Frank.
it framed in this. Hang on a minute.
It's the Sunday Alameda Time Star. So what is it? A profile of AP Dub? I can't remember.
Yeah, they did a piece on us for a week. I'm trying to get it. I'm sorry, it's all
Is
backwards.
that her
and
up
shit.
at the top with the red hair?
That's Dollar Brothers.
Wow. That's quite a rock and roll tribute.
Maybe you can, Russ. Maybe you can remind him to maybe take a cell phone when we get done, because I'm going to have to leave in a couple of minutes. I was just going to ask. It looked like there's Lita Ford. Do you have a Lita Ford photo of her up there? You've got a lot of.
Next room, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, you got all kinds of stuff. So is your wife, is she a musician too, or singer?
She worked for. Geez. I could take you in the whole next room. Motley Crue mostly, but she worked for NAMM. You know NAMM, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she worked for. Well, still does. We have shitloads of stuff. I mean, just so much stuff in here. I'd like to show you around. It's like a museum. The Hard Rock Cafe has nothing like us.
I'll come and check up on you, because we haven't done anything since COVID. We used to drive up to mostly Southern Oregon, where you can see the only place in the world where those bug-eating, they're called cobra lily plants, and the only place they grow in the world is in Oregon, mostly Southern Oregon.
I never even heard of it.
Yeah, they are like, they can grow up to be 6 feet tall, and bugs and frogs and stuff get inside and they digest them. And they're part of that family of the Venus flytrap. They're like a pitcher plant with digestive juice inside. But again, Oregon, Southern Oregon, we've made treks up there, and Oregon is like a hotbed for vicious bug-eating plants.
I never knew that.
Cobra lily, Darlingtonia californica. That's the one that's up there, indigenous to that area.
We have heel plants.
They're heel plants.
So
I was going to ask you, Mike, a question for you.
Oh, sure.
Mike?
Yeah.
Do you remember there was one show, I can't remember where it was at, but you were at the table at ringside, and you had your camera box on the table?
Big silver box.
Yeah. And it was Mike and Donovan were in the ring wrestling, and I was doing the security at the rail. I hadn't turned pro yet. And I saw your box sitting there, and I knew there would be a spot through the table. And I went up to you and I whispered to you, you might want to put your box under the ring, because we're going to go right to the table in a minute. You go, thank you. And you slowly slid it down, and your foot, you put it under the ring, and it went right to the table. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that was often used. I had all kinds of stuff.
You go, think you probably just saved me $1,000 or something.
Yeah, you saved me some money. I mean, prior to that, Andre destroyed a Nikon camera. That's when I stopped bringing Nikons to the show, and that was like '74.
I was just trying to smarten you up.
Like ring, still move.
I was just trying to smarten you up. I'm like, you might want to put that under the ring, because I knew the spot was coming.
Roland would tell us when there, be different spots that we might want to get shit out of the way and put it underneath the ring. That's your help. I started storing my camera box underneath the ring through the entirety of the match. Although one time Modest grabbed it and used it in gimmick to hit somebody.
I'm not surprised.
There weren't any cameras in it. Luckily, I'd taken the cameras out.
So
I've got to go, you guys, but I'll ask Russ.
Man. It's been forever since I
have a ton of photos. I got to print them out, but I'll ask Russ if he can't connect us, and I can send you those. And obviously, he can look at them too, of you and your prime. So yeah, your wrestling prime. So I hope the three of us will be connected. I was telling Russ my dream. I've thought about this for years and years, because before you even started, Roland used to take us out to a restaurant at Christmas every year, and then it was the outdoor at the the dojo, the Pacific Coast Sports in the parking lot. We'd have our Christmas parties. I would like to organize a reunion of anybody who ever came in and out of AP Dub. I don't know, how possible that is, but I think it would be fun to try to get as many people back.
That'd be a blast.
I mean, if we could get, it was all Russ getting Donovan Morgan on the show last year, then I think we can accomplish that, and maybe hopefully have you guys. I know it's be a far.
Many of us have scattered to the four winds. You look back on 20 years, and a lot of us have gone in so many different
We had
locations.
a blast. I mean, you know, Russ had a mini reunion tonight. If you and Apollo Khan would have been on together, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Either a Zoom or in person, I think would be the best. You know, it doesn't have to be something televised. It's just all of us back together, as many of us.
No, it should be televised.
In Clear Lake.
No, it should be.
Yeah. And we
We
could
are
have
do
a
this up-
select few BTW guys. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Such a strange family.
Well,
Hey, count me in.
Okay, so, well, Russ doesn't quite remember. You might remember the second one. We had two. Roland really did all the work, not Kirk White. He did nothing. We had two interpromotions, AEW versus Big Times, and
Yeah, I know.
you know, they failed because Kirk was just too lazy. He would want to come, just stay and do his promo with Jason Styles like before the first match went on, and then they would split, not sit and study the entire APW card. When Roland would go to BTW cards, he would stay for the entirety of the show, take notes. He was a student.
I went on to BTW card once.
You worked with,
But
right?
no, I didn't. Oh, I might have, but I remember like going actually in the stands though, and he wanted to watch everything.
Well, Roland, you know, he didn't want Kirk to know he was there. You know, when they had heat.
That's what I'm saying. We were in the back.
Yeah,
He
the
knew
top. Yeah, Roland, I think sometimes would just sneak in, and whoever would come with him, like that girl he was staying for a while that was working with us on the Grand AOL.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I can tell you a story about that. Anyway, ask Donovan about that story.
She was a piece of work.
I'll tell you.
All right, well, Mike, you have to go. We'll see you next week. But Casey, I could talk to you for a little longer.
Good to see you, man. Stay in touch, man.
So yeah, no,
good.
it is good to see. I mean, you and I talk back and forth on Facebook every so often, so it hasn't been as many years, so to speak. Although I haven't talked to you physically.
I know. That was my first question to you. I was going to ask was, I'm trying to think when the last time we actually talked in person. We talked on Facebook.
I'll tell you exactly when. Was it Swiss Park? Was it Swiss Park for a PWI show? Which was when Mark dropped the title to Malachi, because I won. That's the first world championship, heavyweight championship that I managed. And I have a great picture of you and Vinny, with your arms around each other. I have a picture of you and Vinny.
I have the picture. I know the picture. I think
that's the last time I saw you. Was that Swiss Park?
That was a lot. Because we had, if I'm correct, I mean, you
about
went to
20
before.
years.
Jeez, don't say that.
It's just that's the
I know,
maybe it's like 19 years, but I think it was like 2004, 2003, something like that.
That was the outdoor gimmick, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So that's how many years?
It was a battle royal, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, yeah. I have those pictures. I actually posted on Vinny's thing. He won't talk to me anymore. I don't know why, but
Vinny's a strange duck. There's a couple people that I'm not all that thrilled about bringing back on the show. One of them's Jason Dedrich, and I think you probably understand why that is. Another's Gabe Ramirez. I don't want him on the show. And Vinny and I, we worked together in California Championship Wrestling. I actually managed him as the heavyweight champion there, but then we had a falling out when he was on the Howard Stern show and didn't mention California Championship Wrestling. We got really the owner of CCW went berserk. He was such a huge Howard Stern fan, and Vinny wouldn't take 2 seconds out and say that he was the head trainer of the CCW wrestling show out there. But so pretty much.
I should say he's not talking to me anymore. I'm just saying I'll comment, but I never got like a thumbs up or anything. It's like I'll post a picture of him and I wrestling and tag him and I don't see it. I'm not asking for anything, but we were really close at one time. We were like best friends for a while. Not that I'm asking for anything.
Yeah, time changes a lot of people.
I'm very proud of him. He's got his own like a gym, I think, going on and stuff. I think it's awesome. I love the guy.
No, time changes people, and some people grow nostalgic, and some people, just want to move on and they don't want to revisit old times. But I'm really happy to revisit old times with you, and
I am too.
when I think of working with you, I think of working with a guy who was a total professional, a guy who never, you never complained about the fact that you wouldn't get over on Mark and Vinny, that we would always somehow cheat you out of a victory. Because, the fans like you more.
I loved it because the beautiful thing, again, about psychology is, but if you get beat or you win, it doesn't really matter as long as people remember the match. When Mark would give me the heart punch, for instance, you guys leave celebrating, I'm rolling out of the ring selling like I'm just got almost killed. People are clapping for me. I'm a loser. There's, that kind of psychology. They want to see it again. That's what I learned. You
had a Mikey Whipwreck thing about you. Like, even though you lost, people really wanted you to win. They were all rooting for you to win, and people liked the fact that you always took that underdog role and made the most of it. You weren't, a total scrub. I mean, you fought in there. No. You fought well. You had good moves. Your aerial stuff was tremendous.
I wasn't a complete jobber. I won a lot of matches, but I knew my role too. When it comes to Mark or Vinny, I'm not going to go over. I never cared about going over. That didn't matter. Putting on the best match, putting them over, that's what mattered to me.
And that's why you were such a success. When did you determine that you were a good aerial wrestler? How did you figure that out for yourself?
When I jumped off the top rope and landed on you guys.
No, you had a pretty good aerial attack before that.
You don't practice flips over the top rope in the APW gym.
No, you don't, which was what I was amazed with. But even before then, when I watched you, before I ever got in on managing, I watched you at a number of shows. And you always brought a really good aerial routine to your stuff. You never had any fear. I guess that was the key thing. You had no fear.
Never. I remember going and, again, going back to when I went and visited the gym to watch the students before I even joined, I was interested in joining the school. And I watched them pick their bumps, second rope, back bump. Some were like really scared and did these shield bumps. And I wanted to just get me on there. Get me on the top rope. I want to take a fucking, sorry to cuss them. But,
oh, this is not a kid's show. Don't worry about it.
Well, I'm just trying to be respectful, but I remember watching the first time sitting there, in early 98, I guess, whatever, and just thinking to myself, you guys are in the ring, you're not, jump off that fucking rope and, you can tuck your chin, clap back. I couldn't wait to do it. And I remember the first time after paying, all the dues as far as the running, the wind sprints, the push-ups, the squats, all that, the stairs. When they finally got in the ring, that's when people started really getting weeded out. I couldn't wait to get on the top rope and jump off and land on my back. I just couldn't wait. I stuck in the gym when no one was there.
Wow.
Taking bumps and sneak out. Because people were sleeping upstairs, so you could hear, the ring, but I wanted to just feel it. So.
Wow.
I don't know. But like you said, I don't have to no fear thing. I just wanted to do it thing. And there's things I wouldn't do. Nobody has, I don't know.
But you never had any fear. And I think that's what people loved, especially you going up against Mark. Because everybody was afraid of Mark, with the mask on. It was so scary. You never had any fear against him. And that I think really worked in your favor.
And like I said, on his documentary, I'll say it again. When I heard one interview he did online, and he said one of his favorite opponents was Kid Chrome, out of nowhere. And I thought that was the coolest thing I ever heard. Who am I? Jabroni. He's on some, national, I can't remember what, it's so long ago, but I want to find it. But he mentioned my name as one of his favorite opponents, and I just thought that was the coolest thing ever.
It was. It was. I always looked forward when I knew that when I knew we were facing you on the card, I was like, this is going to be a great match. I don't know what we're calling.
And always told a different story. That was the best part.
Yeah. But I was always like, this is going to be fun.
It was the same match. Yeah. Lock up, throw me down. I'm going to kick you at work with whatever. It was always good. And of course, you little weasel out there. And I would sell for you too. You watch that one match that's on YouTube, and he throws me out. I'm trying to get up, and I'm selling for you, like, on all fours, like this. I know it's coming. You give me a little kick, and just weak little kicks, but that's your job, to be a
Thank
weak
God, yes.
lawyer manager. I'm just going, "You fucker," but on purpose. It was brilliant.
You always sold for me. I appreciate that. You never gave me a real working over, thank God, except when you would jump out on me. You never grabbed me and threw me into the post or anything.
That was smart, protecting all of us, though.
Yes. If
you watch,
did you always want to do a rock and roll type wrestler as your thing, or was that something that you just came up with, or where did the idea for Kid Chrome come from?
The Kid Chrome thing was actually invented by Mike Modest, because I was riding a Harley to school, and they wanted to call me Chrome. And I thought, that's kind of weird. Okay, I'm a biker, so my name's Chrome, so my bike's Chrome, I got chrome pipes on my bike, whatever. And somebody, I can't remember who it was, why didn't call him Kid Chrome, KC, his name's Casey. And the idea initially was for me to actually ride to the ring on my bike. I don't know why it never happened, but it's fine with me. But the whole idea was, it's a biker gimmick. The jacket, the vest, and all that stuff. Mike had some stupid idea for me to be like a Kiss guy with makeup on.
We already had that with the Demon, and that didn't work out so well. So I'm glad you didn't follow that.
That was terrible.
Now,
no, I didn't want to makeup anyway, but that was the original idea, But I'll tell you a funny story. Got time?
Yes.
I remember going into a Roland's office one time, and they would write down, like a marker or pen, whatever, different matches that we're trying to figure out for the next show. Him against him, and they change it up and stuff like that. And one day I saw Kid Chrome, or Casey, I remember seeing the paper, first Modest. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm working with Modest. That's crazy, right? And then, I don't know, was that my next time? This is my version. I don't care what anybody says. I remember this. But we had like normal class, whatever. It was the pro class. But Mike, once in a while, people around the ring, he would call certain people, just name people out, get in the ring. So one day he goes, Casey, Mike, get in the ring to a match. That's all he said. We get in the ring, and I go, what do you want? He goes, have a match. I go, you want fight? Have a match. And we're all looking at each other like, what the hell? And we just, on the fly, had a match. After we had that match, which had good points and really shitty points, and what the heck we were doing, next thing you know, that's when our program started.
Nice.
Mike's on. So I was not working with Mike anymore. I'm working with Mark. Not the next show, because it didn't make him Super Destroyer. He wasn't Super Destroyer yet. But they saw us work together so well. Mike was like, I'm going to work them into a program. And he actually told us about it. And we're both stoked. So the Modest Kid Chrome match was, it's going to be Super Destroyer and Kid Chrome. And that was right before they turned him in, when you came in, with the mask and stuff. So it wasn't going to be Bison against Kid Chrome. It was going to be Super Destroyer against Kid Chrome. That's what I remember anyway.
Those are great matches. Now, I don't want to get you in trouble with your neighbors, but can you hit those drums for... Can you hit those?
Do that. Don't pull that on. They're not tuned up.
They're not tuned up. Okay, because we've had some guests play guitar and piano for us and do some rapping for us. So you wouldn't be able to hear it right now. It's loud. Yeah, no, I'm sure it is. But no, it's really good to see you.
You too, brother. I really missed. I missed the times we had.
It was a weird family that we all had, going on at APW.
But it wasn't. It was a family, though. We're brothers. We're
Yeah,
boys.
and we all, there were times we all hated each other, or when we'd go to a Angels camp, or where the wrestlers would outnumber the crowd. We had a
Oh,
couple
yeah.
of bomb scare shows and stuff like that, and but it's just weird too about with Roland, because I had a big falling out with him, and I made up with him
I
like
did too.
maybe about a year before he died. I
Yeah.
made up with him, and I'm glad I did, and I'm glad that I have so many friendships that still will come back from that time period. And what was it like for you to do the documentary stuff for Mark? How did that feel?
I was nervous because I didn't. It's hard to talk about. Some things are easy to talk about. Some things are hard to talk about. I didn't want to come off as like a sappy. I'll be happy about memories, but some things we talked about that were edited out, which I'm actually glad. It's like kind of a little teary-eyed here and there.
I did too, man. I did too.
And so when I watched it, I was kind of glad it was edited out. I had one of the boys going, "Oh, you big pussy," or whatever.
No, come on. Mark meant so much to us. If you didn't have a tear shed for finding out that Mark died, then you didn't have a fucking heart. You'd be a heartless fucking bastard, because he cared about all of us, and it felt good to say on film how much I cared about him.
Yeah, it felt good. I was just worried about the final cut, and I was really glad that a lot of what I said was edited out. Excuse me, because some stuff, I don't know. I mean, better than I did. I think before you did, but it doesn't matter. He was. What can I say? But when I get asked, I'm trying to think of how to say this. What's your favorite memory of Mark? I don't have a bad one, so it's really hard to pick like that one moment, because there's nothing was bad. He was never a dick. I have the best memories of him. I wrestled a match in Vallejo, California, and I went to the curtain after the match, and I was fucking pissed. The match sucked, and I didn't want to be booked in the match, and I was pissed at Roland, and I told him that's what you fucking wanted? Sorry again. I was livid pissed. None of the boys give a shit about that. He came up to me and put his arm around me and said, "Come here," and talked to me. He goes, "Calm down." He goes, "We all have shitty matches. Just talk to me." He went out of his way to do that. The boys, when you get pissed off, they kind of, "Oh, sorry about that, cool, I'll move up on the spot, He took his time to talk to me, and that meant the world to me. Get teary-eyed thinking about that.
Man, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
He didn't have to. He saw it. I wasn't like, making a scene. I was just taking my tape off, and like I told Roland, "That's what you fucking wanted?" That thing. And he saw it and just came over, and it was dark, in Vallejo back there, that big area, but he didn't have to do that. And that always meant something to me. And I think about that all the time in real life today. Like somebody pisses you off and shit, fuck them.
Mark had an amazing heart. He had an amazing mind for understanding what people needed to hear from him. And he was so disarming. You couldn't be mad.
You didn't have to be. Yeah, you didn't have to be either.
No. And like you, he gave it his all in the ring. I mean, you always gave 100%. Even when the crowds were crappy, I always felt you gave your 100% to, what was going on in the ring. And that was great.
And that was our job. I thought, we go out and party and be crazy afterwards, but when it came to going to work, we were out there to sell it.
Well, I hate to pull to close the show off on you, but we're running out of time. We got a little bit of a late start, but you're always welcome to be back on the show. We'd love to have you back on the show. do you want to let fans know how they can get a hold of you via social media or anything? Or you got any
I'm
websites?
I'm I've nothing to promote, honestly. I'm on Facebook. Check me out. Send me a message. We'll talk about Mark. I'll be glad to talk about stories. Casey Wood Facebook. I think that's what Casey Drummer. What is it? I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, no, it's just Casey Wood on Facebook, and it's been great to get back in touch with you. And if
Yeah,
I
you know.
ever have a chance to come up to Portland, I'll look you up, and we can toss a few back together and share even more memories.
Absolutely. Where are you at now?
I'm in San Francisco or Marin County.
I mean, I'm trying to find you back on.
Yeah, I'm in Nevada. I
Sorry.
live in Nevada. There. So anyway, Casey, you and best wishes to your wife and to your cat. And next
you
time we
very
talk
much.
more about horror movies and stuff like that, and your
I was
belt
going to ask you
collection.
about that too. Yeah.
There's so
And
much more.
I really apologize for being so late. I was here early, and I could not get.
Don't worry about it. You know what? It's the show. It's just like it's just like in wrestling. You're gonna like go, oh, it's all messed up and all that stuff. But as long as the fans see this podcast and like it, then we're good. It doesn't really matter. It'll be good enough for the fans. We know what went on behind the scenes, but as long as
Yes, we do.
the show went on, people are fine with it. And I'll try to get you back on with Apollo if I can. That would be a fun reunion too. And
Count me in. Anytime you want to, count me in.
That's great. That's great.
I'll be your freaking co-host. I don't care.
Well, it's great to have you on just tonight and to catch up after 20 years
Yeah.
of
I
not,
really
not
appreciate it.
hanging out. So anyway, that's it for tonight's podcast, everyone. We'll see everyone next week. And thank you for joining me, Casey.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good night.